The Odyssey has hit the theaters and it has hit it big. Now, if you're looking for a movie with an epic scope, great plot, great characters, then Nolan can do no wrong. I mean, he has proven this time and again. So, let's get on board this ill-fated voyage. Now, the story, as the title itself suggests, is a journey back home. It takes place after the events of Troy. Odysseus and his men are now tired, they are pissed off, they are fed up, they are filled with guilt, and they have just one objective. They want to get back home to their families. Now, I liked one thing in this film, though. They did not just show the Odyssey, the journey. No, they actually showed some events of Troy. They actually covered the war. They didn't just gloss over it or talk about it. There were some scenes that are actually dedicated to show them sacking Troy. That really adds perspective, and I really like that. However, when it comes to Greek mythology, when it comes to Greek epics, any journey is really safe, is really straightforward, or uneventful. As expected, this journey was extremely dangerous and very perilous. And in fact, it was more dangerous than the war itself. Unfortunately for Odysseus, this journey is not the only thing he has to contend with. Back in his home in Ithaca, the shit has hit the fan. Many are assuming that he's dead because he's gone for so long from his hometown. It's been almost 10 years and he has yet not come back. So there are some who assume he's not going to come back and they have evil intentions. They want to take over the throne. They are dictators basically. They want to take over the hand of Penelope, his wife. However, there are a few who do have hope, who have nice intentions. They, especially his son, Telemachus, he believes that he's going to come back. He believes he's out there. So this movie is not just a fantastical maritime thriller; it's also a political thriller. Now I've noticed that the script as well as the editing in this movie is purposefully muddled, and Nolan has handled this masterfully. It's rarely linear. It's not like it's the past, now we're in the present, and we go on to a future event. So it's not that simple. In fact, in one scene, we're in the present. In the next scene, we're again teleported back to the past. And I think this is done on purpose because it really lends perspective to the character. It adds more like backstory to the character. We know what the character has been through. We know what he has said. We know what he is basically and where he's going to what his intentions are. So it adds more strength to the story as well as the characters themselves. And the best part is Nolan has handled this so well that it doesn't ruin the experience of the film. You don't get confused. You don't like it doesn't leave you second guessing. In fact, it doesn't ruin the experience at all. It makes it even better because we're seeing something different here. And the story seems very fleshed out and very like it feels complete. And another thing that Nolan doesn't get enough credit for is the scope of this film. I mean, this film is massive, guys. Every single thing is larger than life, especially if you see it in IMAX theaters. I mean, this movie was shot entirely in IMAX. Just like let that sink in. Every single scene was shot in IMAX camera, which is already difficult to handle. I mean, who does that? Probably if it's only Nolan, I guess. Every ship, even though the shot of the Aegean Sea, every single thing they deal with, the city of Troy as well as Ithaca, every single thing is just in your face. It's zoomed up. In fact, when we are following the journey of Odysseus and his men, we're not just watching them; we are with them. You know, that's the kind of feeling I got when I was seeing this in the theater. It was spectacular. Now let's talk about Matt Damon as Odysseus. Now, when I heard this casting, when I saw the trailers, I did not think he was a perfect fit for the character. Sure, Matt Damon is an experienced actor and he can definitely bring his best to the role. That I had no doubt about. But was he really the right fit for this character? I was not sure. But when I saw the movie, he was much better than expected. He brought out the emotions of Odysseus pretty well. He embodied the character. He was particularly good in certain action scenes and in the way he was dealing with his men, as well as when emoting his inner feelings and about how he felt about the entire thing. So I really felt that Matt Damon embodied this character perfectly. Although I still hold it in my heart that as another actor could have done a better job because, like, let's face it, this guy is not exactly owning this role. He played this role well, but it doesn't mean he owned the role. Now we have to understand something in this: the emotional acting, the emotional resonance is the most important aspect of the film. Let's face it, no one is happy in this film. No one. Everyone is broken in some way. Everyone is facing turmoil. So I think here, this is where Annie Hathaway's character Penelope rises to the top. I mean, she was, I think, the best part of the film. She was just great, guys. Every single emotion, every single dialogue, everything she told, you could see it in her face. You know, it was masterful acting. I did not expect this kind of acting from Annie Hathaway, and I'm very impressed. In fact, it's Oscar worthy. If she's not nominated for an Oscar in this film, I would be pretty surprised. Now let's get to Tom Holland. Look, Tom Holland outside of Spider-Man is yet to impress me in any role. I mean, sure, as Spider-Man, he probably is gold. But when it comes to any other role, and even in this role as Telemachus, I could not take him seriously, guys. He was just a pushover. Like, everyone just shoved him aside. They're like, look, two adults are talking. Step aside. You know, that's the kind of character he was. He was a kid. Yes, he did assert in certain scenes. He tried to make us take him seriously. But that did not just happen. Of course, there are certain people who like his acting, who appreciate his character. But for me personally, I did not take him seriously. He just did not have the impact or the gravitas. Robert Pattinson in this movie was just fantastic. In fact, his acting was just great. He plays the antagonist. His name is I think Antinous, if I'm not mistaken. He is the one who wanted to take over the throne. He was the most greedy. He wanted to be the next king. You think of the worst possible human being here. The worst possible human. He's cruel. He hates animals. He likes to kick the shit out of the people. He has not an ounce of goodness in him. Yeah, that's the character Pattinson is playing. It was fantastic. It was just, in fact, I enjoyed his performance, especially in the high note scenes where he's actually being very hyper. He was angry. He wanted to like beat the shit out of someone. Even in the subtle scenes where he was threatening someone, threatening Telemus, for instance, telling him that he's waiting for a father who's never going to come back. So in such subtle scenes as well, he was just great. It was a pretty complex performance, and I think Robert Pattinson nailed it. In fact, I was excited to see this film solely because of his character. Even since the trailers, I wanted to see him in action, and I'm glad I got what I wanted. There is one thing that's very special about this movie, guys. Something that's not there in any other Nolan films. It's not just the source material that we are excited about. Not really. Nolan has broken his own rules. He has busted the mold. He has embraced the fantastical side of things. Tell me, in which movie has he done this? Sure, in the previous movies, he has explored some high level concepts like deep space travel or probably time travel. And in case of Inception, traveling to someone's head and exploring their dreams. However, all those, if you notice, have been grounded in some form of reality. You can explain it in some sort of realistic terms within his own film, within his own worlds. In this film, you can't explain anything, guys. The soldiers are literally fighting a giant 8 foot men. They're literally fighting a giant cyclops in his own cave. But I think his name is Polyphemus. How can you explain that in any realistic terms? It doesn't. Nolan clearly understood the assignment. He really understood the source material and decided now is not the time to be realistic. And that is fantastic. It opens doors to future films like this. Let's get to the cave scene where they fight a giant cyclops. This was just amazing. Not because of the giant animatronic puppet. Imagine the whole thing was an animatronic. It was not CGI. Okay, maybe use CGI in certain moments, in certain instances, but this whole thing was a practical performance. And also the lighting was just right. I mean, you could appreciate everything going on in the cave. There was not a moment where to strain my eyes and see what is going on. And it was not a full-fledged action scene, no. But this was a tiny bit disappointing to me, though. It was not a full-fledged action scene, no. It was just the men trying to escape it. But that was enough, I guess, because it gave me the thrills I needed. And in the giant IMAX screen, I don't know, I felt like I was being gobbled up. And there was one scene in this film that truly disturbed me. Even after days, I still think about the scene. It is a scene involving a witch. I'll just leave it right there. I would also like to gloss over certain controversies that were surrounding this film even before the release. For example, Lupita Nyong'o playing as Helen of Troy. Firstly, let me tell you, she had a lot of impact as a character and she did give a fantastic performance. And also, she's barely present in this film. I mean, she's not the main character. She is present for like 10 to 15 minutes of the entire runtime. That is like nothing. So it's all right. In whatever scenes she was in the pivotal scenes, she was fine. And also, the other thing is Elliot Page playing as Achilles. I'll admit, this one bothered me as well because Achilles requires a very specific casting. And Elliot Page does not suit that. However, that turned out to be a complete falsy, and it's a rumor. He's not playing Achilles, guys. He's playing a soldier called Sinon, and even he is present in very minimal capacity in this film. So all these controversies were just, I feel, is a waste of time, and it should not ruin the enjoyment of this film. And also the certain words that were used in this film, for example, Tom Holland saying "dad" in one of the scenes. Look, that is just irrelevant because it barely has any impact on the context of this film. Of course, the dialogues and certain the kind of accent they use could have used a little bit more period accuracy, but it doesn't matter, guys. I enjoy this film all the same. Now we have to talk about the very interesting interpretation of hell, or in other words, underworld or Hades in this film. It is not what you would expect. It is not covered in hellfire. It is not tormented souls that are screaming their lungs out. None of that stuff. It's all atmospheric. It is dark, it is moody, and gives you the dread. And I really like that they dulled down the cinematography as well as the color palette in this film. They altered it to suit the scene. It was almost monochromatic in appearance. There was barely any color. And everyone in this scene, whoever ended up in this place, it was like a place of despair. There was no hope. There was no happiness. There was no positive emotion. It's like the end. This is it. There's no other journey beyond this. It gave me serious Pirates of the Caribbean vibe. One negative I can give this film, though, is the fight choreography. Let's face it, Nolan is not particularly good in fight scenes. Even if you see in the Dark Knight, in the Batman trilogy, the fight scenes were just kind of lame. I mean, you didn't really enjoy them. In this case, when the humans are fighting fantastical creatures, it is more interesting. But when it comes to human on human combat, I think Nolan, I think he needs some help. I mean, it's not his strongest suit. Overall, guys, this movie was fantastic. It was great. I barely have any nitpicks in this film, but they are of no relevance. And it was not just a movie, it was an event. I truly felt like I went to a giant event. And I would highly recommend you watch this in IMAX only, or if possible in IMAX 70 millimeter, because that's how it's intended by Nolan. That way you can truly enjoy the film and get immersed. If you watch in the standard format, it just won't do justice. So don't just try to watch it in IMAX as much as possible. And most importantly, this movie made me a fan of Nolan again. Many of Nolan's films since Inception and Dark Knight, probably with the exception of Oppenheimer, I was not impressed, guys. I just did not like his films. I found them a bit boring. But this film, it made me a fan again. Let's just put it that way. And I can't wait to see what else he does. Hope he does horror next. Imagine a Christopher Nolan horror film. That would be something, and I really hope that happens. And of course, do let me know in the comments below what you think. Consider liking, sharing, and subscribing with the bell button. It means a lot to me. Let's embrace cinema together. And until my next video, bye for now.